Yo, Joburg. Welcome to episode 297, where GI Joburg is going to talk about some comic books, a stone cold classic called Codename Sea Strike, issue number 8. But not only that, we're going to talk about a modern comic 2, issue 286, which is a spotlight issue on Storm Shadow, and actually rather good. But my name is Stephen, and I'm joined by the usual suspects. It's Paul.
Hello, everybody. Hey, Big Force.
And Robert.
Welcome to the seas, my brothers. Welcome to the seas. Sea Strike is coming for you. I'm out of focus.
For those of you listening along, Rob is playing with his Zanzibar figure. How very
Yeah. Hell yeah. Very fit and welcome to the Sea Strikes. Here's my landlubber friends tonight.
This morning, I'm okay. If you are watching the video presentation, I really need a haircut. Yeah, I think this is my one public appearance, ever. I mean, this is all I do, stream. So every 2 weeks, I get a stern reminder, what? That's what you look like?
Add a couple of green streaks, and you can look like Thrasher if you like.
Yeah.
It's quite a bouffant he's got, eh?
Yeah, you got to work on that, dude. Work on it. Get
he
it
might
working.
be looking like he's, wearing the undergarments of a professional footballer, but
that hair is amazing.
It's John Travolta in Greece.
Yeah.
With the
wow.
Grease stripe in it.
Grease lightning. My parents didn't love me. That's why I left them for the swamp.
Fascinating. Okay, well, Rob's coming in strong with some Dreadnought love today. Paul, how are you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Amazing.
It's just a week.
Welcome to a week.
Nothing crazy. It's just been last time it was Sunday and we did this, and then my friend had a wedding, and then here we are, and it feels like everything just happened in the blink of an eye.
It's
wild.
just... It is so wild.
But
let's say hello to the chats, guys.
Wow, we're live.
Hey, Melissa.
We are live. There's some people here, man. We got Brick Fiction. We got Mark van Leeuwen. We've got Bob Squad. We got Moonlight. We got Droz. Anything Joe's. Terry. Emmanuel. Dubuya. Wow, guys. Hello, Melissa. Oh, and on Facebook.
Yeah, Melissa's a friend of mine. No, she's
Facebook actually works now. Is that amazing? It used to be unknown user. Hello. Hi, unknown user.
No, you still need to give Facebook permission to use your username. Oh, sorry.
Every single time.
No, you can do it once, and I think it then remembers you.
And then it remembers.
Signed off on it. So I'm going to guess Melissa is a friend from your Gundam live streams.
No, she's a friend of mine. Just friend of mine.
A real friend? Wow.
I have real friends.
So it's just me and Steve.
But Paul, you mentioned you took a trip to the big screen. What did you see, buddy?
What
did you look at?
I went to go watch Las Tortugas Ninja.
Whoa!
Beg your pardon?
Las Tortugas Ninjas.
So, yeah,
Mutant Mayhem.
This was an awesome movie. My God, I enjoyed the Ninja Turtles. I mean, yes, I'm a fanboy, so of course I'm going to go in and... as a fanboy, you're going to go into this thing either loving it or hating it. I went in excited for it. I came out loving it. It was a great little film. Lots of laughs, lots of good moments. You see that. I even brought Raphael with to watch, and there was a cool little story that went with this. So Celia and I went to go watch this movie on the public holiday, Women's Day, actually. And so we decided we're going to catch the earliest show, which was the 10 a.m. show. And so, pre-booked the tickets and whatever. And no, I haven't seen Barbie yet, Melissa. Not yet. I want to. But anyway, so we go in and I'm at the concession stand. And I'm waiting to get my popcorn and stuff. And there's a dad and his son's got a Raphael figure in his hands. And I'm like, oh my word, you also brought your Raphael to the movie. So I pulled up mine and he's like, ah, and then we had a cool little bonding moment. So that was fun. And yeah, I think there's a whole 5 of us in the cinema because it was nice and early. And it was great. I really, really dug it. The thing, just some high points. So if you're a Turtles fan, they put a lot of Easter eggs in this film for you to like pick up on. So you'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, I know that reference and I know this reference, and you're gonna smile and whatever. And if you're somebody who enjoyed like Into the Spider-Verse, for example, you'll definitely enjoy this film. But if you're somebody that wanted to enjoy the Into the Spider-Verse but didn't like the timing of the animation, that kind of timing that they have, yes, that's a technical term. Turtles doesn't have that. Turtles animation is actually very fluid, which I really appreciated because I don't like Into the Spider-Verse's animation so much. Like I found it kind of a little bit painful to watch.
The lower frame rate, making it almost stop motion-y.
Yeah, it gives me a bit. So I didn't dig that, but Turtles doesn't have that, so that's fine. And then also like for Celia, who's a non-Turtles fan, I wouldn't say she's not a Turtles fan, but I mean she's not like a fan of Turtles or comics or anything like that. She thoroughly enjoyed it. She loved the jokes. She liked the music. Oh my god! And the score in that film is amazing. It's done by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. So
amazing.
very,
wow!
Very cool. Yeah, very well scored.
Social Network fame.
I knew he was going to go there. Never mind, like Watchmen or anything like that. You know.
Yeah, go with the dragon tattoo. Yeah.
Yes, that too, actually. But yeah.
Yeah. Did I read correctly, WJ? We're streaming live to your bathroom right now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that correct? Nice. Nice. You can watch us anyway. You can listen to us anyway too.
Nice. And I agree
especially in the tub. What, you don't listen to podcasts in the tub, Rob? Come on, buddy. Oh, he's gone. The power has just cut out in Cape Town. So Rob will be rejoining us momentarily when he's on a battery source. Well, no, actually, it's probably the Wi-Fi that's had a little interruption as it switches over. And there
I did not want to answer that question, so that's why I just had to quickly.
Clearly, there's one thing I got to mention about like the Turtles film that I mean, aside from the awesome score and the design of the characters and the voice,
all the good stuff.
There's a lot of great stuff. In fact, I actually don't have a bad thing to say about this film, but this is a little bit on spoiler territory. Now, to be fair, the film's been out for a week. I'm not going to spoil story or plot elements. But there's a moment when you meet Rocksteady and Bebop, and they kind of like open the car door and they walk outside and they got like Bebop's got a boombox, and the way they like move, I love it. It's just so cool. Like that whole scene is just super, super cool. It's funny. You'll see what I mean when they're just so rad. They like come and walk in and they're like got their little beats and they got their little movement, and it's very much a nice nod to like sort of 70s movies classics.
Why did you ruin the movie? I didn't know they were in it.
Oh my word. But yeah, very cool film. Totally go and check it out, guys. If you haven't, if you're not a Turtles fan, you'll probably enjoy it. If you are a Turtles fan, I hope that you enjoy it because it's just great to have more Turtle stuff. And it's just cool that for the most part, most Turtle stuff has mostly been great. Even the Michael Bay stuff is not, I wouldn't say it's bad. It's just not great. But most Turtle stuff is awesome. So this is
you can say it's bad.
No one's gonna hate that opinion.
My issues with Michael Bay's Turtle films is not so much the character design, because I love the way they designed the turtles. I like them being like roided up, monstrous kind of
I'm a ninja.
My issue with it is that as a fanboy, I've watched lots of like podcasts here and there and interviews with the cast and whatever's that worked on that film, and they were treated really badly. Like the whole cast, the whole operation, it was run really badly as a film.
The motion capture guys.
Not just, that as well.
I heard the horror stories that like they were pushing late one day, and once they wrapped for the day, everyone left the set and they were standing there. They were still in their full mocap gear. Like no one took it off.
Yeah, they just treated people like shit, man. Like
down tools, off we go.
Yeah, that's what really puts me.
We on union time here. Union time.
Yo, we gotta clock out.
We're walking here. Annoyed me because that's kind of been an unfortunate sort of curse on all of the Turtles films, because they've always had an issue with how they treat people.
The one mocap guy went on to be the Jack Reacher from the TV series. You know, the big dude?
Also And also
Good
in
Lord.
that horrible Titan series, he's also a character. It's what's it? Something in Dove. Can't remember.
Hawk and
which
Dove.
Hawk and Dove.
Hawk and Dove.
Hawk.
He's Hawk. Yeah,
Yeah.
in Hawk and Dove.
Right.
Oh,
Dove
he
is amazing.
is.
That's like literally the only reason to watch the Titans, by the way. I would watch a supercut of that series that was just Dove. Honestly.
I bet you would.
I would. I can say that without any shame. Yeah, you done messed up. No, that's true.
And I have not seen the second one because the first one stunk so bad, but I believe it's better. I mean, it does have the kind of the classic elements like the Technodrome and Krang. You know, all those sort of things will make you kind of cheer and loudly in your seat. But is it Out of the Shadows? Whatever. The first
Yeah.
Michael Bay turtle film, I did not like. So I was like,
Yeah, just gonna skip it
I just
now. I
like
can't
the
be bothered.
toys. I like the
Good
toys of
toys.
the second one because the first one I didn't feel the toys ready for the first one, but the second one's toys were much cooler. Speaking of, have you guys been watching anything cool? Have you guys seen anything good this week? The last 2 weeks? Watched any good movies? Watched any good TV series?
That's a loaded question.
have you
Okay,
watched
so
any bad ones?
I've watched some good stuff. So I didn't get to watch it when it came out originally, like not properly, but I've been watching Dexter. And I'm near the end of the second season now, and it's really good. It's actually a fantastic show. I've been told I'm basically halfway through the good seasons now. I believe the good stuff kind of ends after season 4, and after that you shouldn't really be bothered with it. So yeah, I'm going to watch all the good stuff and probably just skip the last 3 seasons. So I watched that, and I watched a really good new movie on Amazon Prime called Hypnotic by
I'm gonna check that.
Robert Rodriguez. It's really good. It's fantastic, and it's short. It's a modern movie that's an hour and a half.
Oh my god, say it in so.
It's insane. It feels like a classic film. Like I don't have to give aside like two hours to a movie and be disappointed by the end. It's really fantastic. Really good performances from Ben Affleck and everyone involved. I watched another movie, Heart of Stone. That's also a new one on Netflix. I would say don't watch that one.
Okay, don't watch Heart of Stone.
That's with Gal Gadot, right?
Yes, she's fantastic in it. I mean, like she does amazing stunts in it. It's just the story itself isn't really that gripping, and it kind of like you keep thinking. I mean, I kept thinking as I was going through, why is he doing this? Why is that happening? Why didn't he do this thing? So yeah, watch it if you like, but she is way too hot.
Gal Gadot is way too hot.
Rob, may I just say that your new glasses frames are awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, they
hello.
really round off your face. No,
really... I apparently the classic style, or at least the style that I'm used to, which is much thinner glasses, is just not in anymore. So this is the style these days. So fortunately, the lady at the optometrist was like, "Oh, these look good in you." And I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna have to take you. I have to trust you."
You can't trust those fuckers, man.
No, no, for sure. I mean, she was initially looking at it's the most expensive glasses we have. But I kept saying, nah, not these ones, no, not these ones. So I think eventually she did kind of like her opinion. She actually was giving me an honest opinion. Like this actually looks pretty good on you. So yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, I think I look pretty good.
I have been approved.
Yeah,
I have been sucked into a bit of a Handmaid's Tale marathon. I've been sort of watching that in between work.
Oh, interesting.
Here I thought you were going with controversy, and I was like, "Oh, Paul's gonna be sucked into some kind of controversy. This is exciting."
No, I wish.
Oh,
no, actually, I don't wish. I don't need drama. Because I started the series pre-pandemic, and then the pandemic happened, and I kind of don't know if I really want to watch like dystopian sci-fi right now while the world's going to shit. I want to play with toys, and yeah, man, it's a really, really good series. Like, I really dig it. Like, it's great. And
okay, thanks, Paul.
Cool
unless you got a point to make about Handmaid's Tale, I'm cutting you off, bro, because this ramble has gone on long enough. We need to talk
it's
about
just that, like, I'm missing good sci-fi stuff.
Yeah, there's nothing much good coming out. I mean, Hypnotic was pretty good, actually. It's a good sci-fi.
And I'm happy to hear that because I did see it pop up, and I was like, I should get that a look. I also watched Shin Masked Rider, or Shin Kamen Rider.
That has
cool.
toys.
It does. I got the kit. I got the model kit. It's very nice. I
Hell
did a
yeah.
live stream of it on the Gunpla SA thing.
Damn, son.
That is a very fun movie. Like, if you guys like anything Super Sentai, I think you will thoroughly enjoy it, because it's just Super Sentai on steroids, but without being too... I find the Super Sentai stuff got a little bit too, what's the word? K-pop music video. And so this keeps it very dark, and it keeps it kind of still looks like it could be on wires, even though it's not, but it's got that feel to it. And Hideaki Anno, the director, he's the guy who created Evangelion. He's got a very specific look to his films. So he's done Shin Godzilla, Shin Ultraman, and now Shin Kamen Rider. And yeah,
Crazy.
Guys, you should check it out. Shin Kamen Rider is on Amazon, so it's totally worth checking out. It's really good.
Steven, any toy-related things you saw this week?
Funny you should ask that leading question. Thank you, Robert. I made a new friend. His name's Michael. He lives not too far away from where I am, and we had
2 cats and a yard.
We had drinks the other night, and at the end of the night, he produces a packet with a box in it and says, "Steve, I had an extra lying around. Have it. It's yours." I'm like, dude. Oh, you really shouldn't, but if you must,
glad you did.
it is the core Sky Strike, and we did a review on it this week past. Lovely plane. It looks like a mishmash of historical aircraft. The majority of it is taken from the P-51 Mustang, which is probably the most classic, most epic, legendary piston aircraft ever produced. And then it takes swept wings and the intake from an F-86 Sabre D. And then I think I'm going to say that the jet exhausts, were mostly inspired by the F-4 Phantom. So this thing is just all over the map, but it is beautiful and really like a showcase piece. It's of what the core is capable of when they're really switched on in their design.
The Rondel also looks a lot like the SANDF Rondel from the
markings. It's a sort of a pentagram. So it's like with the star inside it. So the South African Armed Forces had a similar logo on their sabers, on their F-86s. So yeah, it's got all sorts of resonances for us. It's beautiful and very surprisingly not widely available. I've gotten a lot of comments, particularly from viewers from the United States, in fact, who are like, they just do not see the core. And that leads me to believe, because Leonard is based in New York State. Like, they are in New York. So it leads me to think that maybe Hasbro buys out the shelf space to such a point that it strangles out any other scale military toy lines. Which is ironic, because Hasbro just isn't catering in this this scale and this style anymore. Like, they're not doing vehicles, and they're not doing 118 or 4-inch. So there is conceptually space for the core, but Hasbro don't like competition, perhaps. So that's just a theory.
Really?
I'm basing this on absolutely nothing.
Why would they want competition? That's weird. Can I just comment something on that video of yours, dude? And it's a really cool thing. Like, it's a compliment. So the way you shoot that plane, and it's the way you shoot all your planes. I love how you always keep the camera moving. So it always feels like you're trying to catch the plane. Like, as if you know what I mean?
I don't have a tripod, Paul.
No, but but like, hear me out. It looks like you're trying to catch the plane, as in, it looks like it's moving. So when the camera moves with it the way, even though the scale is out and whatever's you're in the park or whatever, it looks like you're like, oh, I'm like running next to this plane so I can get some good footage of it. It's really awesome. I really dig that.
Hell yeah.
Like, when I was watching the review when you posted it earlier this week. Was it this week? Shit, when you posted it earlier.
I think it was last weekend. So if you count that as last week, you can say, yeah.
It was cool, man. That was like what caught my eye. I was like, damn, that's the magic. That's what you do if you want to shoot planes well. So I learned something from the video. Yeah. So anyway, I just had to throw that in there. So, I'm trying not to.
So Leonard are the real international heroes then? You can't get them in the States, but you can get them anywhere else?
Bizarrely. And I'm reminded that, I had a kind of spotlight thrown onto this plane by our good buddy MCDJ ACDC. So I sort of phoned him up and said, "Hey, buddy, that plane that you were telling me about, I finally got one." And he's like, "Well, that's funny because you guys are the reason I bought mine to begin with." Because we did a podcast episode called Hardcore about the core, and at the sort of towards the end of it, I started mentioning toys from recent years, and the Sky Strike came up, and now I got it. I got it.
Hey, it took a couple of years, but now it's yours.
Oxnard.
And let's not let it overshadow the fact that I've got a good new friend in Brisbane as well. It's wonderful to have Joe Bros nearby because my classic Joe Bros, you two fellas, are out of reach.
Weird. Can't
You know,
ocean
here
away.
You can buy biltong.
Oh, I can buy biltong, bro. Trust me, there is a
I'm sure you
unquenchable desire for South African treats.
I'm
Yeah,
sure
the
there
land
is.
down
I'm sure
under.
everybody wants their Omar rusks and stuff.
But another theory that I'm working on, you know, Oros, the orange crush, classic South African.
Of course, we
drink.
know what Oros is.
Well, you can buy the 2-liter version for the Nachi flavor, but not the classic orange flavor. You can only buy it in the 1-liter bottles. And I think they know where their bread is buttered. And the import guys are like, no. We're going to slow down the consumption and increase the sort of price per unit and sell them 1 liters because we know these ones are going to sell better than anything else. Like,
Smart.
sure, get the 2-liter Nachi. No one likes that. But Nachi is a clementine, or is it a mandarin?
Mandolin, probably. That sounds right.
I like the
To
Nachi
international
flavor,
viewers.
personally.
Oh, no.
I love it, man. I think
more for you, Paul. More for you.
If I was in Australia, I'd be like, yeah, I'll take your orange flavor and shove it up your hole.
Yeah, well, look, they got me by the balls because I'm buying it a liter at a time when I really should be buying it in greater bulk.
Or you should just really develop a taste for the Nachi flavor.
That's the smart play.
There is
some interesting information and speculation on Leonard in the chats that I'd like to highlight.
I see so.
Robert H says that Leonard is owned by Walmart, from what he's heard. And that said, he never sees the core there either. So weird, because these are like clogging the action figure aisles in sort of Australian toy shops. It's like budget stuff that no one really wants, but it's there in bulk. Oh yeah, you see them at Pick and Pay. Pick and Pay, for anyone wondering, is a supermarket chain in South Africa. So that's how prolific they are. And then the Figure 6-pack says that Leonard Toys in the US has an office in Oxnard, California.
Oxnard.
You sure? I mean, the boxes, if I'm not mistaken, list New York.
Leonard.
Maybe they're lying to you, Stephen. They just want to seem like they're from New York.
But I wouldn't be surprised if they have offices on both coasts. That makes sense.
Like in
that's funny.
They wouldn't have one in Rhode Island. It's a bot.
My Sky Strike lists New York as its place of manufacture, but I've bought some other ones, some figures to go with it. They were going way cheap, like $7 a pack. Actually. 3 packs for $7. Amazing. Leonard.com. Leonard UK is in London, and that's the distributors of this. And Leonard Hong Kong. Gosh. Okay, so they're everywhere. They're for the little guys. They're the big boys as well.
I think the articulation on those core figures, they're quite great. The figure that came with your plane, I actually bought him as a single carded core figure.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes, I don't know what his
Smoke.
name is. Yeah.
Smoke.
Oh, no. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he came with a dinosaur. Either way, he's great.
Yes, he came with a dinosaur, which makes more sense because he does not look like a pilot.
Yeah.
But he's fun.
Weekend warrior.
Paul, have you seen these? They're like mech animals.
I wish I'd seen that. I would have bought them.
Amazing.
That's so my jam. The robot velociraptor.
Robot velociraptor with like rocket packs on his little forearms. I'll make myself big. You might be able to see a bit better.
That's so cool. I want one.
Pretty rad. There's
That's
that.
super rad.
There's a cat.
Oh shit! You know what that reminds me of? You know the cat that came with the Catwoman figure in the Batman.
Yes, that she could wear. Sort of Batman Legends Kenner line. Yeah, similar to that, but it scales better with the figures. But that minigun is rad. It's got a removable ammo belt. That's always fun to see. And then lastly, I'm actually showing them in the reverse order because this is like the weakest of the three. But there's this Mecha Wolf.
Mecha Wolf.
Yeah.
Romulus
and Remus.
That's Mecha Wolf. My cool code name. Mecha Wolf.
Well, in an alternate reality Snake Eyes version, you could use this instead of Timber. Like this is
you suppose
pretty
you could.
badass.
It's got Timber downloaded into it.
Well, at least like a mecha animal. I mean, I'm not saying Timber's not an impressive canine, but like...
Oh, yeah, he's pretty cool, but he's not a robot.
Yeah, a robot you can kind of predict a bit better than an actual wild animal.
Wild.
But yeah, man, the core's up to some interesting stuff, like repackaging
that's rad. I love that shit.
Of old figures, but with new spins. Like this is a removable shoulder.
So their game though.
Yeah. It's very what's that Tom Cruise film?
Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah. I know something.
But the weapon systems are on ball joints. For anyone listening to this, it's a core figure, standard core figure with a backpack that goes over his shoulders, giving him what looks like a kind of a laser weapon or maybe a multi-barreled machine gun and like a rocket pod. Very cool. Oh, and check out the lighting's not great, but he's got white sort of war paint
on his face. Yeah,
on his face.
That's so rock and roll.
Well, it's kind of like the current classified Tiger Force Flint. I don't know if you've seen that with the black stripe across his eyes.
I like that.
Last of the Mohicans. I do not. I think it's not in character for Flint at all.
Yeah, but, that's what I thought when I first saw it as well. I was like, it's not very Flintish.
Be able to buy it anyway. So.
Well, thank goodness.
No, it's okay. I mean, I've got Flint already. He's good enough. If they did that to Spirit, if they did like a Tiger Force Spirit or something like that, and they gave him that kind of fade, that would
Tiger Force Falcon, so they can just paint over that ugly face.
Dude, there are guys selling Tiger Force. I think it's what's that company now? They did Ramen Toys. They showed off a head sculpt, the replacement head sculpt for Falcon.
Oh, I saw that, but people also have problems with that thing too. They're like, his forehead is still too big.
I have less problems with that than I have with Team America Falcon, is what I'm saying. But yeah, trying not to
just so that I don't have to double back about this stuff, I'm just gonna tell you my highlights from these core 3-packs.
Hell yeah!
This dude is called Mirage.
I like that your friend Alan Grant has good taste in cars. Carry on, Steven. Sorry.
Amazing taste in cars. You should ask him to take you for a spin sometime. Hell, he should take me for a spin sometime. Bloody hell. Anyways, this cool guy has weapon storage. He has this kind of glaive which goes into the back plug.
Oh, it's the Disco Ranger. Hey, maybe that's Whispering Willie.
No, man. They call him Mirage, but yeah, I would love if this was Whispering Willie. Anyway, it comes with a
Whispering Willie.
Little gun.
Check out what that gun is. That's like it reminds me of a phaser, like one of the old school phasers from Trek. Okay, but now that I see more detail,
it looks more like the Enterprise phases.
Yes. Yeah. But I like that.
Star Trek Enterprise. Yeah, that's pretty neat.
Anytime a budget figure gives you weapon storage, you shut up and take notice. This guy's called Shark. And he's got a removable truncheon and like a kind of sci-fi looking shotgun, which I think is a better sculpt than we get for Classified. This is badass. It's got kind of a top barrel shroud, which looks meaty and chunky. Nice pump, and hopefully not a break action to go with that pump. I'm looking at you, Flint, Classified.
Yeah. It's like pick
Bizarre.
one. You can't have both.
Anyways, that's enough new shit. We guys, we were supposed to talk about comic books. We've talked about
Comic
anything,
books.
but
Comic books.
All this other crap, which is great.
You-
I love talking about crap.
You distracted
Yeah,
us by
that's
saying, let's talk about toys. And I was like, okay, let's talk about toys.
But that's not a slight on these issues because as we're
Obviously
about to
not.
find out, they are excellent.
Whoa.
And
Whoa.
so it's a mystery
Spoiler.
to me as to which one you guys would like to speak about first. Will it be the modern? Will it be the vintage? Because both are fertile.
Because they both deserve it.
Yeah, exactly. Both
Exactly. Oh, yum, 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 yum.
Let's leave it to Rob.
Again, you always leave it to me, by the way. Like, the choice is always mine. I love this.
Power is in your hands.
Unless I overrule you both and the listeners.
Oh, but you see, no matter what I say, Steven's is going to choose the one that he wants to go with. So I'm going to say, let's go with issue 8.
Okay, very good.
That's what I wanted to do, Rob.
Not predictable or anything.
Issue
Oh, there's
8,
some great moments in this book.
Codename Sea Strike.
Sea
Now,
Strike.
the first thing that should jump out to any observant reader is the fact that this is not a Larry Hama script or plot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is entirely Herb Trimpe. The Herb
He had
Trimpe
absolutely
show, baby.
nothing to do with this issue. Yeah, Herb Trimpe's script.
It's like, oh
everything
my God, why is
plot-
Snake Eyes shooting at us in the Triffid?
Oh!
Paul is remarking on the cover, which depicts a bipedal mech, very fantastical,
The Biffid.
almost Jack Kirby / War of the Worlds design, which is shooting down at Stalker in the jump jetpack and Scarlet riding atop a very foreshortened vamp. They squished that vamp to try and get the driver's seat into the panel. But yeah, it's fun, man. It's clearly a Cobra vehicle because it's got Cobra sigils, but like Paul says, it looks like it's Snake Eyes piloting it.
Yeah.
Just
There
the
are
way
a
the
lot
Cobra-
of original Cobra vehicles in this issue. There's
yes.
Herb really wanted to get a design made into a toy, I think, from this issue. He was like, hey guys, Hasbro, look at these things.
What do you
Don't
think
you
of
want to make
this
a toy of
idea?
one of these things?
Well, he was filling the gap. Cobra had 0 vehicles in 1982. And this issue is coming out right then. I mean, when is it? The end of the year? Oh, no, it's February 1983. So we're into the next year. But clearly the next wave of toys had not been announced yet because we don't see any fangs or snake armors or anything in this issue. I mean, there well could have been scope to put those vehicles in, but instead we've got sea strikes, not sea strikes,
Sea legs.
amphibious artillery, and then this fascinating thing is a submersible with like a catamaran double hull with a seaplane mounted on the back. And we learn that this is not only a boat, it's submersible, it's a submarine too. It is called
Is there any precedence for this in real life?
A surface craft that goes underwater. Well, it
with
actually
a plane
looks like
attached to it.
Maybe not with the plane.
Yeah, that's kind of what was a little bit of, that's what kind of.
Plenty of smaller boats had planes that they could deploy, like seaplanes that had a catapult system towards the back. Typically, the plane would be facing the other way, though. So you'd shoot it off the back, and then it would land on the water for recovery, and they'd use a crane to hook it and put it back into its place.
So that's all there. That's great.
Yeah, we got the
crane. Yeah, it has all those
see,
details.
It even
it's facing in the wrong direction.
Yeah, it is facing the wrong direction. But, I mean, artistically, this looks correct.
Yeah, it looks awesome. The SRV-9. Submersible reconnaissance vehicle.
Rob, you can carry on chatting, buddy. Won't you tell us what happens in this issue?
So what happens is in this issue is the Cobra Commander is very capable. He's set up he's in the process of setting up an entire network of undersea bases, from which he believes he's going to be able to take over the entire world. And GI Joe realized that something like this is going to happen So they're in the process of launching a satellite that is going to be able to detect where these sea bases are, and take them out, take out Cobra sea bases. So now it's a race between Cobra destroying the satellite before it takes off, and GI Joe protecting the satellite before so they can get into space. And yeah, a crazy big battle ensues from there. On land, sea, and air, and space.
Insane.
Actually, not air, but space. Yeah.
My takeaway from this most recent reread is my takeaway almost every time I read issue 8, because it is an absolute stone cold classic that you just need to keep coming back to it. But this time around, I'm like, this is insane how much stuff is crammed into 22 pages of comic book. Just when
a lot
think,
happens.
Just when you think it's done, and the bad guys are packing up and going home, like the usual end point of any story, Trimpy delivers another action set piece, and another, and another, and another. And so it keeps building to this crescendo. Like, it's just out of control action, man. And that's impressive because the setup also occupies a fair chunk of the issue. Like, we're looking at page 10 now, but we've had 9 pages of build up to this point. We've had a briefing for the Joes. We sort of had an opening scene for the Cobras, an opening scene for the Joes, a briefing for the Cobras, a briefing for the Joes, and now, finally, page 10, bam, the sea legs are emerging from the water. We've got some amphibious-looking shapes on the horizon line. Yeah, very much, absolutely. They're the Triffids. Paul, tell me some highs from this issue, man. What were your takeaways?
Ooh, yeah. Okay, so if you can you get through to the earlier pages quickly for me, please?
But of course.
Most notably when Cobra Commander is using the spy glasses.
Ooh.
I love this. Is so cinematic, and once again, that's very Hope Trimpy. But I love this whole scene. It's very dark. It's very foreboding. You got this multi-angle shot, and
you feel the weather. Yeah, it's rain soaked.
It's heavy. It's like heavy on you. So I really dig that. And as you pan down the page, which I'm hoping Stephen will do, you get that, and the reveal is there. That's what they're going for. And then you think, okay, cool, they're gonna nail it, and then they get spotted, and then they go underneath the water again. And then a big moment for me was also the next page, which is this very strange looking sea base.
Oh, hang on. Just an interesting continuity. Well, it's probably not a continuity issue because maybe they were launching something different that day. But there's a plot point made about them needing to move the entire launch vehicle across from the gantry to the event. So from the hangar to the gantry. Yeah, so the launch pad. Cool. And it moves at 1 mile per hour, and it takes basically 6 hours to cover the distance. But as Cobra Commander is looking at the launch pad now, there is a space shuttle on it. So I guess it was a different launch that day, but just interesting that
archival footage.
There you go.
And then this shot here in the snow. Sorry, it's just one thing I have to remark on. I think it's pretty badass. So you got all the Joes kind of going on about why they have to be in cold weather and stuff. And I'm so glad Bart is in the chat because this kind of reminds me of something he told me about. They'll make you train in cold weather and then send you somewhere hot. And there's this kind of joke in this series, in this issue about that I feel kind of pays off. But just to remind you that Hawk is an absolute badass, and it's on the next page, I believe.
Yes.
He has not got long sleeves. He's there in the suck, and he's got short sleeves. It's great.
Well, the then pull out and reveal is the fact that they're not in the snowbound tundra at all, but they're really just in an enclosed environment that has snow blowers.
It's a nice little clue that they're not actually outside. It's like he just stepped onto the field from the sidelines, essentially from the gantries. He was like, "Tuk tuk tuk tuk, guys, I got something for you to do."
So belly aching. So. And I also dig there's a nice little reference in the this is not a highlight. I just thought this was a fun little thing. I don't know if you guys bothered to Google this or whatever. But in the there's a Psy Award. So they talk about
C.Y. Young Award.
Yeah. the Cy Young Award. There we go. And so I was like, what's that about? So I looked it up and I was like, oh, okay, it's an award for like best pitcher in baseball. So I mean, that's like I'm summing it up like quickly. But thought that was quite a nice little thing. Like I learned something, and that was obviously very culturally appropriate. And then this whole page. Once again, Herb Trimpe just being amazing with his cinematic sort of storytelling, the 1, 2, 3 panels. But it immediately took me back to the 80s. And I was like, damn, if I was a slightly older kid in the 80s, I'd also be like into, sports and stuff like that and army guys and whatever. So I like that moment. It kind of took me back in time. But yeah, anything for you guys? What jumped at us for you guys?
Well, Paul, if you think Hawk having short sleeves was impressive, Figure 6 Fact points out that Gung Ho was known to go on snow missions with his bare-chested vest. So not that impressive anymore,
we haven't gotten there in our reread just yet.
Have we? But it's in the cartoons, I'm sure.
No, actually, the Sunbow crowd.
Oh wait, they did dress them up, yeah. Sometimes.
Apart from Quick Kick was bare torso and barefoot in the snow, but his story was that he'd been abandoned by a film crew. So there's the explanation. But with the rest of the Joes, yeah, the Sunbow animation team actually did have cold weather looks. So yeah, that is specifically a reference to issue number 11, which is Gung Ho's introduction. But yes, Darren says that the French built a submarine that had a plane that launched from it.
That's pretty cool. Darren also points out that it's also a nice touch that Hawk is shown twice with steam coming out of his mouth to show it is cold, and he just doesn't care. That's a nice attention to detail on Herb Trimpe's part.
Hawk is badass, man. He doesn't take any cut from anybody.
One might say that Herb Trimpe is pretty good at his job too. This is a wonderful book. I'm trying to think of strikes against it, to be honest, and I'm coming up blank, guys.
I've only got one strike against this book.
Oh, it's not long enough.
And it's not Herb Trimpe's fault. It's not the writer's fault. It's the letterer's fault.
Oh.
This letterer in this book, I don't know if you guys had trouble with this, but there's a lot of bubbles in this book that don't flow nicely when you read them. And maybe I'm just being a bit of a typography nerd now. I don't mind stuff being squished together because sometimes that just happens in printing.
There's a lot of script though, Paul. Look at that.
No, there is, but there's tons of widow words. And there's tons of orphaned lines as well, where words are broken up in half, and they didn't have to be, and that kind of really annoys the shit out of me. So I don't mind in this shot, for example, and I'm sorry if I'm being anal retentive now, but I don't mind in this shot when it says our first orbital missile, thereafter satellites. I don't mind that being a little bit kind of squished in there. That doesn't bug me.
Orbital,
yeah,
with 2 T's,
spelling errors.
Oh,
it's a very funny book to read because I feel the letterer didn't really do their job properly here. Here's a great panel. The world will soon be ours. Our laser shields are too sophisticated for us to be detected by conventional methods, and our sea-based rides too deep to be attacked from the surface. Didn't have to be like that. They could have literally, if they really wanted to, they could have just stacked the surface under attacked from. So they could have just gone attack from the surface. I understand certain typography rules could have been broken. Could have made the bubble a bit bigger for 5, 6. But that kind of shit annoys me. And there's a lot of it in this book. And it's very irritating. That's literally the only knock I have against it. If I have to be petty and find stuff. Because it's a great book. The angles are beautiful. The art is beautiful. There's always movement in the panels. There's this darkness to Herb Trimpe stuff that I really appreciate.
He does paint Cobra, early Cobra at least, as this fanatical band of zealots who will go down with the ship. Because, spoiler alert, when GI Joe win the day and they scuttle this sea base, well, Cobra Commander scuttles it by hitting the self-destruct.
By the way, you have 5 minutes until it blows up. I'll give you 5 minutes. I'm real evil. You got 5 minutes.
The Joes offer a life raft to the defeated blue shirts, and they're like, no, we failed. We are prepared to accept our fate of death at sea, which is hardcore. I mean, Cobra as they refine the Cobra ranks, they become more mercenary, more whatever. I mean, we're just here to punch the clock and and make a tidy salary. They don't really necessarily have this kind of true believer, almost suicide bomber mentality of like just being a brick in the wall of this machine called Cobra. So yeah, this is kind of, and I like it. It's fun. It's very Bond villain, because all of those guys were prepared to lay down their lives for Spectre. And
well, it was certainly
Number
carried
One.
across to Action Force with with the Red Baron and his troops. They were exceptionally Red Baron,
Baron Ironblood.
Baron Ironblood, whatever. With him and his troops. I mean, that it's cool that the basis of their version of the bad guys in those comic books was the earlier version of Cobra. I mean, it makes them more formidable, I think, and more scary as an organization. I think everything in this book is really is quite fantastic. I like all the little designs that he comes up with. Probably the weakest ones are, as Bart calls them, the Cobra Chicken Walkers.
Discount
They
ATSTs.
are a little too out there. I mean, I think the amphibious vehicles are kind of cool, and I especially do like the SRV-9. I think it's a cool concept, and that's probably the most real world looking of his designs in this issue. And he really loves silver. Like everything he designs, he just loves like putting like a silver sheen on it.
Well, it's probably a visual signifier to make you know who the good guys are and the bad guys are. Like G.I. Joe's OD Green and Cobra is these kind of science fiction foil craft. They all look like they're covered in aluminium foil, or aluminum, if you will.
Also, I've got a question for you guys. Who's Ranger?
Oh,
Ranger.
Yes, that's a confusion that's happened previously. Sometimes Stalker is referred to as Ranger because guess what? In original file cards, the specialty got top billing in like big bold font, and the code name was underneath, smaller font. So
that's a good explanation.
I thought that too, but in the same conversation, and I would love to get to that panel in the briefing. Where
it's not in the briefing this time. Ranger is name dropped in the action, but they do name drop Stalker as Stalker in the briefing this time.
So if you go, I think it's a little, I could be wrong. Is it a little bit up here? If you pan up on this page, Clutch and Ranger.
No,
the band.
No panning.
Yeah. So,
well, at least he's stuck to it. He's stuck to his guns. He calls him Ranger throughout the issue. Except when he doesn't.
But then they call him Stalker, will be in command of the ring.
Yeah, in the very next panel. Okay, well...
So Stalker is the same guy in two different places? That's very cool. Go Stalker. I didn't know you could do that. That's amazing.
Look, here's my no prize, Paul, that Stalker knows who he's being referred to because he's actually the only Ranger on the team.
That made sense. That's how I took it, but I just figured...
It's interchangeable, and Hawk couldn't be asked. Like... Sometimes he'll call you Stalker. Sometimes he'll call you Ranger. Sometimes he'll call you Lonzo or Wilkinson.
See, that's how
Lonzo Wilkinson, E5.
But what kind of podcast would we be if we just didn't glanced over that? If we didn't nitpick it, damn it.
Well, we didn't nitpick it in issue number 4, Operation Wingfield. But yes, we caught it now.
Well, I only caught it now because of the inconsistency when he's like, Ranger will be in the vamp, Stalker will be in command of the outer ring, and I'm like,
he's in two places at once.
Two different places at the same time. I don't understand.
Well, Paul, Darren Cobb, like to clear up what attacked is. It is a special type of attack that has a slight pause to confuse the people being attacked. So it's actually a real thing.
Sounds tacked on. Enough dad jokes.
And also, WJ asks, did this inspire Destro's Iron Grenadier's chariot, as it was originally a Walker design? What do you guys think?
That's new information to me. So, would that be the despoiler? Was it supposed to have legs?
I wonder.
That'd be interesting. Look, I wish we could see the sea legs with their legs collapsed in this sort of submersible mode, because you can see little screws. It's got props. It's got fins. It's got all the signifiers of a submersible craft, and even a periscope. Periscope.
Tentacles. I call it a periscope. It looks like a tentacle that comes out of it.
WJ says, yeah, the spoiler.
Ah, cool. Well, that's news to me. That
Yeah,
the
I never
spoiler
knew that
used to have
either.
legs.
It looks like something that should be in Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. In fact, I've made something similar to that in Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Wow. Paul, you're so creative.
I'm not creative. It's just something we have to solve the problem. I
decided
to do. Just reminded me of that.
Let's call it a bit of attention to the fact that not only does Cobra Commander have a seaplane at his disposal, his helicopter can go stopped rotor, and then the tail prop swivels to become an undersea propeller, and yeah, it becomes a submersible, which is
Thanks, Bart.
hilarious.
Approved.
See? Yeah, no, this is, as I say, non-stop action. On this reread, it became evident to me how close Flash cuts it. Because yes, we cut to space, and Cobra, in a last-ditch effort to stop the shuttle, actually fire a missile into the heavens to intercept the shuttle. And Flash decides he's going to use his movement pack, his jetpack, whatever you would call it. There is a proper acronym for it that I'm blanking on. MMU? No. Anyways, he's doing a spacewalk, and he decides that he could deflect the missile if he just kind of hugs it and then fires his pack full blast. But you can see
Very
that
smart.
He's hurtling the missile into the gap between the space shuttle and its satellite cargo, which it's kind of deployed at that point. And what I hadn't realized up till now is that he flies it in between those 2 points in outer
EVA.
space, which is insane. Yes, an EVA pack. Extravehicular activity. Thank you, whoever that was. Paul, come on. Rob,
that was
name
the
drop.
six-pack.
Thanks, Figure.
Name drop.
Give
us a name.
I don't want to cut you off. Yeah, there's a lot of
Don't ever cut Stephen off. Let him finish.
I imagine. And then there's also MMU from Darren Cobb here. Says MMU, Manned Maneuvering Unit.
I think that's what I was going for, yeah.
He probably used a bit of MBAC movement to try and get it.
Now, we don't ever have the benefit of like a soundtrack to these panels, but I sure wish we did, because at this point, after Flash deflects the missile, it blows up, and he's like, time to knock off this Doc Strangelove routine. I've got a feeling this thing's about to blow. Boom. Anyway, and in fact, no boom. They didn't put any onomatopoeia in that page because guess what?
It's in space.
In space. Hey, clever.
Hell yeah.
Scream.
But over the radio, Breaker starts singing, "My old pal Flash, have I told you lately that I love you?" Sorry, guys, it's early. Anyways, we don't know the exact tune that he's singing, because it could be a Van Morrison song, it could be a Rod Stewart song, it could be an Elvis Presley song.
Could be anything. Yeah.
I don't know if it's Rod Stewart.
He did do a cover of "Have I Told You Lately That I Love You?"
Yeah, but that was later. That was after 83.
All right.
Whoa. Okay. Paul. Rod Stewart fanatic. Love it.
I also
really love the gallows humor. There's some delicious gallows humor from like throwaway characters. But yeah, there is a sort of captain and a crew for the space shuttle, and they realize, holy shit, this missile's got us dead to rights. We can't maneuver in time. And they say, we're out of luck, guys. Nice knowing you. Be seeing you in that great briefing room in the sky. Which is sad, man. It's like acceptance of your fate that this missile is.
Astronauts are hardcore, dude.
Yeah, I suppose you live on a knife edge in outer space. Like, life and death is so immediate. You've learned to accept it and make peace with it long before you stepped onto the tarmac.
You guys ever watch The First Man, by the way?
Maybe.
With,
Remind me.
Ryan Gosling is Neil Armstrong, and it's about them trying to land onto the moon.
No, I haven't. I watched Apollo 13. That was.
I have seen it, Paul. I've seen it, and I remember thinking it was excellent, but I can remember absolutely nothing else about it.
A lot of tension with the astronauts and how that all goes down, and that acceptance of death, and how their families have to deal with that kind of stuff. Anyway, it just made me think of that when you mentioned this. Cool film.
I recall
Yeah,
seeing
dark humor is the way to go.
the
Sorry,
hidden
thank you,
numbers,
Jay.
the secret numbers. Anyway, it's the film about the team of mathematics buffs who basically crunched the numbers for the Apollo 11.
Ooh.
Yeah. Anyway, besides the point, one of Kim's favorite movies, as it turns out.
Wow.
Anyways, guys, this issue,
That's
need I
pretty
say,
dark.
like, are we going to rate it? What are we?
Need
what are
you
we
say
thinking?
that we're going to rate it? Of course we're going to rate it, for sure. We're definitely going to rate it. Although I just want to mention a highlight of mine, I think, is later on when none of their guns work, and the only person who can kind of fire something off is Zap to destroy something. And as he's kind of like shooting off his missile, he like whispers, "Zap."
Yeah, that's great.
Zap.
That's cool.
I love that moment. It's like, why, I don't know why it's in there, but it's hilarious. I really liked it.
I love
Well,
that because that
And
is
he's got an accessory pack rocket launcher. It's a
Ah.
metallic grey color. Yeah. Hopefully, it's less of a thumb breaker than his original 1982. What is the explanation for that? Why do you suppose he whispers Zap?
I imagine it's just it's a focus mechanism. It's not like he was trained or anything like that. It's just he's probably found in his life that if he focuses on something, like on a word, it helps him do better with his aim. I know some people, friends of mine who play baseball, they also do that when they pitch. They think of a word and they go like, and they just use that to focus.
Yeah, maybe it is a nervous tick that he has, and like in actuality, you don't get to pick your code name. You know, your code name isn't this badass thing that you dreamed up. It's given to you by your teammates or by your commanding officer. Perhaps in this case, Hawk was kind of structuring the team. And he was like, "This guy, I've been with him on the range when he fires, a heavy weapon, and he always has this tick that when he depresses the trigger, he says, Zap." So I'm gonna call him Zap.
And that could be a thing.
I'm gonna call Stalker. You know why?
You know why?
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Bart points out he's whispering to himself because he loves his job and is goofing around. And Darren suggests maybe it's like a catchphrase. "Cobra, you just got zapped." It's pretty cool.
There we go. Yeah, it's weird, but like that kind of stuff really does help you focus. It's odd.
It's a take on Metalhead, who came later, who likes to say bang, or he likes to say bang, but bang also incidentally is the voice activation cue for his missile system.
Wow,
I still think he swears. I think that's just
that's just
bang.
There's a character in a game called Loaded, and I can't think of her name right now. But she's also got a voice activated weapon, and how it works according to the manual is that she just shouts expletives. She screams expletives all the time, and that's how her guns shoot.
They just couldn't do it because of the Comics Code Authority.
Pretty much, yeah.
Paul's headcanon, he's always swearing.
There is another great moment in this book. We kind of glanced over it quickly, and I feel like it's one of the last things we should speak about, just because.
Okay, cool. I'll
hardcore.
Definitely stop talking about it.
When Cobra Commander shoots up that wire-guided missile. Is it a wire-guided missile? Yes, it's a wire-guided little missile at the launch gantry. And Hawk pops out to stop it. So, oh, and also this moment here with Snake Eyes as well. Can you guys tell me what happened to this poor Cobra officer? Because everybody's getting shot and whatever, and here comes Snake Eyes with Swiss Scrooge. Like, all I'm saying is that Cobra officer had a head, and now he doesn't. And he has like 5 half heads. Because that's...
Do you want to take a crack at this first, Rob?
I think he just shoved him straight into the cockpit there. I mean, he doesn't have anything in his hands that I can see, so I think he just hit him really, really hard, like in the back of the head, or like chopped him with his hands.
He's got a flat hand, so it's like a karate chop. I mean, people often bang on about the fact that this is Commando Snake Eyes, and the later version is ninja Snake Eyes. But that's obviously an oversimplification because this is in every sense of the word like a modern day ninja. Snake Eyes is depicted like unarmed here. He's killing a guy with his bare hands. He's sneaking up at him, on him, out of the sort of the long grasses, and then just
smells the Old Spice when he sold
He
karate
was
chops the
definitely a
guy's
ninja.
head.
Yeah, right off. I think Paul's right. Yeah.
Just
Master of
straight off.
12 unarmed fighting systems. That is on his first file card, not his second.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, you wanted to call attention to the
Oof, I love this shot.
missile.
Again, missile going, gantry gets closer,
All the while, we've got the countdown to the launch. 10.
Yeah,
9,
man, and it just
8,
takes you through,
7.
and it's just this whip, like let's call it a whip pan sort of kind of thing that happens, and an explosion, and it's just beautiful. And then Cobra Commander's sort of taking great sort of pride in the fact that he died, at least he'll that's one that we get to scratch off, and not Cobra Commander, I think it's Baroness that says something, and then you're just like, oh no, what happened to this Joe? And you're like, and then in the back of my head I'm like, yeah, it's probably that Ranger fucker because nobody knows who that is. And then it's actually and he's in the little emergency blast shelter, and that was very clever.
Very obviously marked emergency blast shelter.
Yes, just for us, just in case we were like,
just in case the dialogue doesn't tell you that, because obviously Herb didn't trust the letter, as he trusted him as much as you do, Paul.
Yes, I mean, it's not like I'm the most grammatically sort of sound human being on the planet, but yeah.
Paul, you hung a lantern on Hawk's badassery to this point by listing that he's able to walk out into the cold in short sleeves. Come on,
but he's got long
I've
sleeves.
done that. But no, I'm just saying, like, this is the most Studley moment of all. He guns down an incoming missile with his M16. And he kind of, he has some pretty stoic things to say as this missile is charging down towards him. He says, good gosh, that missile's coming right at us. 30 years in Captain Obvious. 30 years in uniform, and it's down to one bullet, one chance. I mean, when you're staring at death in the shape of a wire-guided missile,
one chance
to come up with such a Studley movie poster thing to say, that's he's got some incredible focus at that point, man.
More so than the guys in space. I mean, those guys just gave up. See you in the briefing room in the sky. I think this is a fantastic issue. I think it is a really good one and done again. Which is usually the ones that I prefer, especially with GI Joe. It's nice to kind of see like a mission start and end in one issue. I think I'd probably give this 4.5 out of 5. Joe Cola's grape sodas.
What's preventing it being a perfect issue?
I think just sometimes, like just the designs of the sea legs. I think I just can't take it that seriously, unfortunately. Like if they're more like hovercrafts or something, I kind of like, but like I just can't take them seriously. It's obviously a big feature, and I think Herb was very proud of them, but it just doesn't feel in line with other things that I've seen from Cobra. Or just it stretches my believability a little too much, I think. So if they didn't have the legs and they look more like spoilers, definitely 5 out of 5 grape sodas from me. It would have been. Paul, Steven, you took a breath.
We're both gun shy. No, guys, for me, this is a perfect issue. I'm going to give it 5 with absolutely no reservations. This is my favorite kind of GI Joe issue, and it's very typical of the first 10 or the first 9, I'm going to say, because there was still a level of disbelief that this toy book could run multiple issues. It was initially just going to be 1, and then the sales were good enough to grant them a second issue. And so I don't think they had the confidence to know that we could do multi-parts and overarching storylines. By issue 10, that all changed. But we're still in those kind of golden early era of one and dones or two and dones. And this perfectly fits that mold. It is non-stop action. It's got incredible art. And I'm even going to say that the science fiction designs are all right by my book. Herbie was was off script at this point. He was not running off any kind of pre-existing designs. He made up a ton of stuff. Some of it excellent, some of it a little less than. But I'm glad he took a shot and gave Cobra this very exotic arsenal of vehicles. Love it. 5 out of 5. Oh, I do want to say that I think he's internally consistent because very blink and you miss it, but the Joes do have a heavy lift aircraft. And, oh, no, as I'm looking at it now, I was going to say it looks like the same plane that they use in the beginning of issue 6, which is also penciled by Herb. But that plane had pusher engines. It had engines that had the props facing rearwards. This one has forward-facing engines. Maybe GI Joe can flip its engine configuration for different landing situations, but like structurally, it looks like the same plane. Apart from that fact. Anyway,
I'm gonna give it 4.5 Yojo colors.
That lettering really bugs you.
It really did bug me. It is unfortunately a mark on an otherwise perfect comic book. But guys, that's just me being finicky. I know that maybe later on in the line, I'm going to regret giving this book a 4.5 and probably would have lamented over the fact that I should have given it a 5. But, we've kind of been spoiled. At the time of this book's writing, I think this was a really high-class book. And where we are in the series, we don't know what's coming next. So it's amazing. I'm going to give it like 4.5. I'm very happy with that. I also think the sci-fi designs were amazing in 1983. I think people looked at this and they were like, "Oh my god, this is the future!" But yeah, and yeah, that's where I'm at with this book. I also love Herb Trimpe's dark and moody panels, and just the seriousness of war comes through a lot. Well, not war, but the seriousness of combat comes through quite a lot.
No, for sure.
The high
stakes. Good issue.
Great issue. Yes. Also, I love this raptor. Love it.
Apparently you do. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. It can't turn its head. It can move its arms. It can move its legs, and it can open and close its mouth. And I love that when you look at it, it looks like it's thinking. Yeah.
Roboraptor and Real Raptor. Gentlemen, shall we shift our focus to a comic of the recent past?
Oh my goodness.
Issue 286, which was written by Larry and tells a very, I'm going to say, personal story. I feel like this has its roots in some element of the author's history because there's a lot of realistic touches. I mean, Larry books typically always get you to break out encyclopedias or Google in this case. He had his attention to detail makes you do the extra mile and do some research. But this one, like, there's even more realism than usual. And I don't think it's just because it deals with a historical period. I think it's because something about the story has a ring of truth to it. It is, of course, set in the Vietnam conflict. And is all about, hello, Ronnie, is all about the arrival of Storm Shadow into the LRRP team that Snake Eyes was already a member of. And then later on, the arrival of Stalker into that same team. It's
what I find going into this, I find very fascinating is that the story, yes, it takes up an entire issue, but Stalker is able to convey it to Scarlet in the period of time it takes for them to go through security to get into Fort Wadsworth.
Yeah.
He's like, well, let me tell you about this. Through the gate. Oh, so that's how it happened. Yep, that's how it went down.
I've got an explanation for you, though, Rob. Stalker didn't tell any of the events of the issue.
Oh.
Stalker wasn't there, so it was a very short story for Stalker. It was like, yeah, I got off the chopper and I met these guys, and then I was on the team.
Pretty cool. Okay, so who's remembering this then? Like,
it
what?
suffers from the same technical problem that Saving Private Ryan suffers from, in that we get this epic story that the narrator wasn't present for, at least 90% of it. He comes in right at the end, and that's the only bit that he could accurately narrate. So the framing story is possibly the thing that I could lose from this.
Yeah, I think you could just go into it, spotlight, Storm Shadow. It starts out Nam back in the day or whatever, and then you just go from there. I think the context of it is you can understand where you are and what's going on, because like we all know that's where Snake Eyes and all the other guys met each other was in Nam, and they did work together. How did they work together? I think you're right. You could lose this kind of like little framing piece, and it would still be a very you don't need it. How did you meet him, my boyfriend? Well, let me tell you about the times back in the days.
Dude, don't driving Miss Daisy this shit. Anyway, go up. Sorry, Steve, please go up.
Go up.
There's your answer. He's like, I heard it from it's like Stalker in the second panel.
Yeah, for sure he says that, but it's like,
from Wade Collins and Dickie and Ramon. So,
Ramon.
hey, what's up, Cody?
Ramon Escobedo. Let's not forget to name drop his surname because, for whatever reason, well, maybe Larry forgot it, needed a reminder, but or it's just a not clumsy. It's a lengthy name, but Dickie gets his surname name dropped. I guess it's probably because Ramon's heritage is implicit in him being called Ramon. Obviously, he's of Latinx descent. Dickie Saperstein. It's a plot point later on that he's a Jew, but perhaps a German Jew. So there's an interesting, perhaps backstory there, historical story. Maybe his parents were immigrants leaving Europe around that time. Anyway, it's terrific having the details filled in about these characters who were most famous for dying. Like the other guys on the long range recon patrol that Stalker, Storm Shadow, and Snake Eyes came from, their most notable plot point were the fact that they got wasted in this ambush. And so now we get to see the day-to-day mundanity of them on base, playing cards, getting visits from the donut dollies, and how Snake Eyes fitted into this picture back then. And that is very telling. Like, even before he was robbed of the ability to speak, he was a quiet dude who didn't mix with the fellow soldiers. And there are two components to this. The first, I believe it's just his character to be strong silent type. And the second is he was sending money home to pay for his sister's tuition, his twin sister's tuition. And like, I've never served in the armed forces, but I have been in a touring company. And you'd get guys like this who had families already, had young children. And after a show, they would not hit the town and blow their per diems. They saved absolutely every cent. They'd catch the bus straight back to the hotel and have an early night because they were sending money back. And you just never saw them as a result. Snake Eyes is fitting that bill, I guess. Devoted. Not irresponsible.
Yeah, or he just wants this to be over with as quickly as possible. So he doesn't want to, he just wants to do his thing, get in there, do his thing, send the money back.
Look, you might find that fraternizing makes the time pass a bit easier, Paul. No, he just sticks to himself.
Yeah, it depends on the personality. Some people get stronger from that, some people don't. But yeah, what I think is interesting. Sorry, and this is especially in this 10th scene. We've had a GI Joe comic before. I think it was in the form of GI Joe Origins or Snake Eyes Declassified or something to that extent, where Snake Eyes is portrayed as being quite mouthy and full of jokes and quite,
it was an IDW. Oh, sorry, it was a Devil's Due. Snake Eyes Declassified book. I think they show a flashback to him and his twin sister, and he's quite mouthy over dinner. Yeah. Mm.
And it's quite interesting because, you've got. I mean, listen, Larry has final say. This is his character on anything that happens with Snake Eyes. But it is interesting to me that character got signed off back then. By the brand, probably by Larry. I'd imagine.
No, Larry wasn't
Wasn't
writing
he
that
involved in
issue.
Declassified? Oh, I thought he might have been. Or was? Hey, what's up, Gary? But that was just a thought. Listen, I like that characterization of Snake Eyes as well. I also kind of like the idea that both exist, that people remember him differently, that you see him from different perspectives. I like that. Although this is a very de facto look on him, but I like that. As to his mystery, it's like, tell us some truth, but tell us two versions of the truth. Let us figure out as readers which one we prefer. So it's kind of what I always liked about Wolverine before they ruined it by doing Wolverine Origins. So.
Well, oh, sorry. I was trying to recapture my Scarlet voice, but I couldn't get it back. I think that's the more stereotypical way of doing it, is where you have a character who's established as silent now, and then you will, in the past, you're going to show them as the most talkative person ever in the entire world. I think that's more of a go-to when you are kind of like showing a past version of a character. While the way that Larry kind of shows it is that he isn't silent because he isn't able to talk. That's just part of his character. He's always been kind of like a very silent person. He doesn't talk a lot. When he does say something, it kind of does mean something. Like he has a reason for why he's saying it. And I think, yeah, Paul, you're right. Both are very valid approaches, but I think the easier one to do is be like, oh, that guy who couldn't talk. He loved talking as much as he ever could. That was his favorite thing to do. So I think, yeah, both valid approaches, but it's quite cool to kind of see, like, he was always a very reserved character, a very reserved person, and it also shows more the relationship he sort of develops with Tommy, where it is shown that they get very close. Like he talks to him for hours. They have this deep connection that he obviously. He has a connection with everyone in his unit, but he has a deeper connection with Tommy, which I found quite cool.
That's the contrast, right? That's how it gives us contrast to their relationship, why their relationship actually is something special, because that's what he brings out of Snake Eyes.
Because, I mean, he is very protective of everyone in his unit. I mean, that's shown a lot on this issue, where he kind of like completely reduces his gun to like nothing, because he's trying to keep them safe as best he can.
He's trying to save his own skin, dude. He was caught in the middle of the river.
He's just
but he was given the option to leave the river. Tommy was like, "Come on over here, you'll be safer." And then Snake Eyes, through the narration, he realizes he can't do that. If he does that, he's gonna have to stop laying down fire to be able to keep the rest of the unit safe.
This might be a shocker, but have you ever considered that maybe he was just scared?
Oh wow!
Nobody wants to sort of accept that, but he was. I think he was shitting himself, and
he was probably. But he also had enough focus to not just fire one belt empty, but he reloads 3 times, I believe they say.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You can do that. If people can do that, not all people lose their shit in conflict. Maybe he just didn't want to run away or whatever, but he can focus to reload and just
it's a mix of this. It's a mix of all of that. He probably is scared, but he is also very determined to keep his unit safe, I think.
Absolutely love that that scene though, because
it's fantastic.
I do like the fact. For me, it's important that he's scared, and he, despite being scared shit out of his mind, he's still doing what he thinks is the best thing to do, even despite the fact that he's holding that gun wrong. But I love it. It's a good moment, actually.
Where is he holding the gun wrong, Paul?
I hate this. It looks uncomfortable. It doesn't look like he's supporting the gun properly.
Well, it is foreshortened to cram it into a vertical panel, but that is the rest.
It's also very big. It's gotten a bit life out there. I'm not trying to be an artist. I'm just saying it went a bit life out there. There's a shot that before I go into all of this, there's a shot that I want you to go back up to with Tommy that I actually hate. It's a Storm Shadow shot, and I love that we have camera on.
Talking to you, the fact that Snake Eyes is scared, Ronnie Trickshot says Snake Eyes definitely laid a snake in his pants.
Pop the coiled viper. A little bit higher, bro. So like when Tommy gets off the video of the helo after he's come back
Oh
from
yes.
with his team
So
all being shot up.
let's just bring the listeners who might not be familiar with this issue up to speed. So Tommy is actually not a member of Snake Eyes' LRRP team at the start of this issue. Tommy is with a company or a team.
Alpha. Yeah.
Alpha, yeah. And they
Yeah.
get shot to pieces. Only the sergeant and he survive. But the sergeant he's lost an eye, or his eye's injured. He eventually has it cut out. So he's on his way home on the Freedom Bird. Lovely, lovely vernacular being used. Or, very, very cool sort of technical language. But Tommy gets sent into Bravo, which is the team that Snake Eyes is in, and the team that we know so well with Dickie, Ramon, and Wade. And
So this
Snake
is the
Eyes,
shot. Sorry.
Snake Eyes hasn't opened up to anyone, but because of an altercation that happens early on in their relationship, he and Tommy start talking and don't stop. Finally, Snake Eyes finds, I guess, someone he feels comfortable enough to confide in. And so they go for hours and chat. It's very romantic.
Thank you for this, Brick Fiction. Short-barreled M60E, one of the coolest weapons from the 70s and 80s. That actually definitely helped me a little bit. Here we go. Need the 4-end grip that will be added in the 80s for the Navy SEALs. So yeah, that sounds like it would have made sense. So this shot here of Tommy, I hate. And I have to show you in the video. Sorry.
Oh dear.
I know.
I hate that Tommy is standing all heroic like. He's all like, here. He's like, sorry guys, I can't get much like range here, but he's all like, Hurr. I hate that he's not like standing kind of like, oh shit, you know, like kind of like, you know, I hate the body language there. It doesn't tell the story well at all. And that's me being a pain in the ass comic artist. Well, not a comic artist, that's just me being an artist with that. Because I know that if I had done that on a page or did that somewhere or presented that to the client, they would have been like, why does the sad man look like a superhero? And that I don't like. I thought that was very silly. It doesn't come, I don't like it. But then again, I'm not the guy who edited it. And Larry Homer, I'm pretty sure, signed off on a lot of the pages for this. And I'm pretty sure he likes it, and that's actually what matters. This is just my opinion on it.
I think it works from perhaps mid-torso up, but you're right. The fists...
shoulders slumped. Yeah, the fists don't make so much sense. Yeah, I can see that.
It just makes me. It's just like It's because this book is great. It's just I didn't like that moment. Also, this was kind of a cool moment as well when they shit out the other GIs for treating their friends like meat. And like, no,
yeah, and I looked this up, but the designation 57-F is actually a job in the army for disposing of corpses. So these guys, their job is to accept bodies and take care of them. And like the LRP team, the officer in charge who we get name dropped later on. He doesn't last very long, unfortunately, but he does tell them to take a hike, that the LRP guys take care of their own. So they'll see to the proper handling of these corpses, not just kind of drag them around like pieces of meat.
And it's sad. I mean, that is what you do to deal with shit as well. I mean, I'm not sitting looking at these characters and going, "Oh, you guys are such assholes handling stuff." But it's just that's what happens, man. You're trying to get a handle on the moment. The Last of Us TV series explored that quite well as well, where they also throwing bodies into fire pits basically, and they also become very desensitized to it, and especially when Joel keeps seeing that it's children every now and then. So. Yeah, it's the thing.
There are various touches in this book, and this comes back to the point that I made like right at the beginning, and it's the fact that while GI Joe always kind of straddles a sort of a fantastical and realistic line, this one dips wholly into the realism and makes me feel like this is more anecdotal. This is either something that was a story related to Larry or several stories that he cobbled together, or possibly even stuff that he experienced himself. Just the specificity of a guy shooting out his barrel to the point where the weapon is ineffectual. He knows better. He's trained better to know better. But like his finger is clenched on that trigger. Fires through his entire allocation of ammunition. That feels to me like something that actually happened. A guy reboards the helicopter and his barrel is melted.
I love the description there. It's white hot that the barrel becomes invisible and you can see the rounds going through it. It's,
ironically, not the first time this has been used in GI Joe.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. The assault on Cobra Island after it had just been formed. Was it that, or was it trying to shoot rattlers out of the sky? Either way, it was the whale. The whale's guns were shot so hot that you could see the bullets exiting the barrel.
I believe that is because he's actually seen that. Like, that's like something you have to actually see to believe, because it's people can tell you about it, but yeah, you have to see it, I suppose, to really understand the realness of it. It's sometimes life isn't real enough, Anyway.
And credits to Griffiths, the artist, Andrew Lee Griffith. I just want to also pay compliments to his technical detail. I mean, it's probably true to say that the Huey is the most photographed helicopter in existence. So he probably had references for every conceivable angle. But yeah, he definitely spent a good bit of time getting that aircraft bang on. The details are there, the geometry of it is there, the effect of the rotors in spin, beautiful work.
The art is amazing, but also the coloring by Jay Brown is fantastic too. It's got that very kind of like muted browns and greens palette across the entire issue.
Yeah.
I also feel like with the Huey, you have to be careful with that helicopter as well, because there's a lot of Hueys on movies and things like that aren't actually Hueys. They're dressed up differently. And so you have to like, I don't want to be technical, but I mean, I imagine that these are pretty accurate, because a lot of Vietnam movies use slightly more modern versions of the helicopters in those films, which aren't actually at all like the real ones used. So yeah, I had to share this one Bart earlier. Yeah, dude, what can I say?
Bart says that he got a red hot barrel on his M4A1 once, and that gets you slapped in the back of the head by your first sergeant. LOL. Yeah. Okay. Were you just deciding to hell with it, man? I'm gonna
keep going.
I'm gonna flick to full auto and just burn out some mags.
This is very tight storytelling. Like every event kind of affects the thing that comes next. Well, I mean, which happens in a lot of stories, but it kind of feels very deliberate. Like he arrives back, they see the way that Tommy reacts to the way that his people are being treated, and they kind of step in to help him. And then also the way that Snake Eyes kind of comes to his aid, in the mess hall, and it all kind of like leads on very, very deliberately, I think. There is definitely a connection there between Tommy and the unit, and they kind of see him as a fellow, as a fellow soldier and someone who's really gone through this shit as well. And he very quickly becomes part of their entire team and their makeup. It's very tight, the story. Like you definitely from the start to finish, like what's going on. I really enjoyed this quite a lot, and I love how like Stalker just comes in right at the end. Well, that's where I came into the story.
True. Any other high points you want to pull out from this issue? It is unanimous.
You guys have covered
teams
all the highlights. I think so. I mean, like we've discussed like him overcoming his own fear to kind of like to take on, to kind of keep his own unit safe. It's a very emotional issue, definitely. And it's really cool to see something like this from later on in the series, because I mean, we kind of talk a lot of shit about the more multi-part issue stories. I think generally we seem to have enjoyed, I think, more of the standalone issues later on. And this is definitely a standalone issue from late in the run. It's absolutely fantastic. I really couldn't give this less than 4.5.
I really didn't
You can give it more.
I feel like there's a line that we didn't mention that was kind of important in this comic book, and I feel like everybody's mentioned this line, but it's worth is when Snake Eyes actually speaks.
Yeah.
Giving Ramon shit about telling his mother everything that goes down.
Telling her the truth, and they're all like, "Don't do that." Like we see horrors here that no one should know about.
And Snake Eyes is just like, "Don't lie to her. Just don't tell her the truth." Or maybe in his real voice, "Don't lie to her. Just don't tell her the truth."
See, that's why he doesn't talk.
But I love that because
which both I think chronologically, or certainly chronologically in ARAH, and also perhaps just in terms of the fact that this is the first like fully formed sentence that he's spoken. This is the first time he's spoken. I mean, he has uttered Scarlet's name, so he's capable of pushing words out later on after his injuries. But this is him saying something, and it's got enormous weight. I mean, not only is it Snake Eyes speaking, which will always carry enormous weight, but like he imparts the kind of the final point to the scene. Like, because the guys are debating how much detail Ramon should go into in this letter to his mother. It's like, no, man, don't tell her all that stuff. Tell her just the humdrum, like the day-to-day shit, that the boring stuff.
Donut dollies, yeah.
Yeah, don't tell her about the horrors. Like, you'll freak your mother out. And Snake Eyes just cuts right down the middle and says, just don't lie to her. Don't tell her the truth.
It shows you he's protective. He knows how to
protective. Yeah, tell her something nice. Yeah.
Also,
but don't deceive. Don't go out of your way to deceive her. Like, that's it's your mother. Don't
also
bullshit her.
And a question for the Berg Force and for what do you think it is about Snake Eyes that makes Tommy, or what do you think it is that makes Tommy kind of look at Snake Eyes and go, "Oh, I can tell you a whole bunch of cool stuff"? Or what do you think it is about Tommy that makes Snake Eyes feel he can talk about a lot of stuff? Like, what do you think it is about those characters? What do you think is the thing that they looked at each other and they were like, I know you're the one. You deep secrets.
Best friends for life. But I think it's that setup, where kind of like the way that he reacts to his teammates, his dead teammates being about to be dragged off. Snake Eyes cares a lot about the people that he is partnered with, that his unit, and he sees that Tommy cared a lot about his own unit as well. And I think that does resonate, between them, that they care a lot about others, maybe more so than they care about themselves a lot of the time.
And specifically, there is an altercation that happens in the mess tent. Tommy gets back from his unit being slaughtered, and the mess tent chef is like, "Get out of here! You smell like jungle and blood." I'm paraphrasing. But Snake Eyes confronts the dude, doesn't say anything, just plops some food down on Tommy's plate and stares down the chef. He's like, the chef's mouthing off, and I'm like, "Yo, hot shot, heartbreaker, name taker out in the bush, in my mess tent." And then he trails off, doesn't say anything else. He gets fixed by a steely gaze. And that's it, man. This dude, he's got a rep, definitely. Even as a young man in this conflict, Snake Eyes' legend had started to grow.
I think that makes perfect sense, and I can go with that. I also feel like Tommy's just lost his whole unit. He's alone. He's feeling alone. He's also just he's actually, in a lot of ways, he's going through maybe a little bit of survivor guilt and whatever. And the fact that like Snake Eyes comes out and steps in to help him makes him realize he's actually being seen, like he's being watched, like Snake Eyes has got his back. And it's a weird thing, but I think that's kind of what makes him feel like, okay, this guy I can trust because this guy's been watching my back. He's looking after me, even though he gives Snake Eyes crap, like going, I don't need anybody fighting for me, kind of thing. I think he kind of also appreciated that Snake Eyes had his back. He was like, okay, like because I'm sure like in a situation like that, nobody gives a shit. They come in, they get their like food, they sit down with their, let's call them buddies or squad mates or at the most available table and they eat. You know what I mean? Nobody's really looking out for each other and stuff at that moment. I don't know. But I imagine that's what it's like. So maybe here he just feels, okay, this dude's actually noticed me, and now I don't feel as alone, which is important, I think. Doesn't matter how hardcore, how badass you've been trained as a ninja. But anyway.
Yeah, initially Tommy's defiant and like, I don't need anyone fighting my battles for me. Absolutely not. Tommy's as elite as they come already at this point. But I guess that shone a light on this stoic sunglasses silent man and made it easier to then approach.
Rick Fiction also mentions that you can't overlook that he's Asian in a war against the Vietnamese. That is something I wanted to say as well.
And I'm going to put words in Rick Fiction's mouth and just say of Asian descent, because let's not have any ambiguity whatsoever. Tommy Arashikage is an American citizen. He's from Fresno, California. Like he's as true blue American as they come, which makes him a kind of a stand-in for Larry by being in, an American citizen in the American Armed Forces, but at least you present Asian to be shipped off to an Asian country fighting in a war against, people who also present as Asian, Southeast Asian. There is a lingering element of race in everything you do. Yeah. So yeah, he's feeling double or triple isolated. He's a survivor. He looks like the enemy. And yep, Tabuya J adds, it is the 1960s and 70s. Like, that sort of flagrant racism went unchecked. No one was really rapping anyone else on the knuckles. If you had some casual racism in the mess tent or not so casual racism, no one's going to say, hey, dude, come on.
Exactly. And I think they even make note of that a little bit later in here, where the term cholo is used as well.
I think Ramon has some fun Spanish that he flings Snake Eyes' way, doesn't he?
I think he does.
They both weigh in on how Snake Eyes has got the big cojones.
I just think that was also just kind of just a subtle thing, just to sort of go, hey, listen, this kind of stuff was kind of unchecked. I think Larry was trying to do it with also like without trying to put a big signboard on top of it. Well.
Every minority group is coming into play here. Like it's Ramon says, check out Snake Eyes, es hombre machote, which I think means he's a macho big dude, one hell of a guy, something like that. And Dickie's showing off some, I think it's Yiddish, I guess, or is it German?
German, probably.
Yeah, Schrecklich starker. Yeah, German, which also means like he's a tough guy.
I love this by Darren Cobb. Snake Eyes to Tommy. I'm perfect. You're perfect. We would be perfect together. I want to read that.
You hesitated to give it a full marks. Is that just because you're hesitant to ever give anything a perfect score, or was there something?
I'm sure I've given things 5 out of 5. I gave it 4.5 because it also just kind of makes me sad that later on we kind of get a really cool story, and it's kind of like bookended by really other issues that I really don't like. I just wish they would all be this good. But something else, so this is really the first time we've had this story. There hasn't been like hints as to like more. Like we've had time when it was Stalker and Tommy and Snake Eyes. We've had stories about them in Vietnam, but literally this is the first time the story has ever been told. Is that right then? We've never had this like section of that story before.
Yeah, Tommy's entry into Snake Eyes' LRP team. Yeah, this is the first.
It was just assumed like, okay, they were always together, and they went from there. Okay, exactly. Well, that kind of makes me very happy to know that. We are still discovering more about these characters, years and years later after we've had so many stories told about them.
I would personally love more stories that focus on Storm Shadow.
Word.
Yes, I'm a big fan, but I feel like there's a lot of questions we don't have, and I feel like a lot of questions we have for Snake Eye for Storm Shadow stuff is answered through Snake Eye stuff. And there was this great little short run Storm Shadow miniseries that Larry Hama had done, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Thought it was a very cool comic book, and I would have liked to have had more of that because it gave me more insight on the character. And I would have especially loved to know what was going on in Storm Shadow's head in the early GI Joe books because we can speculate on what he's doing, but we don't really know if he is spying on Cobra, if he is a Cobra. Like, it's weird. I'd love to know what's going on in his book. I'd love to have it'd be cool if Larry Hama could do like some kind of, if he could read some of those issues, and then, or maybe he's already got it as a back in the idea book somewhere. But I'd love to get a journal, like Storm Shadow's journal, from that time. I'd love to see how that would have played out. But that could be fun.
Got a great question from Moonlight. Has that Vietnam story stayed consistent throughout? Or have there been attempts at retconning other characters / references into it? Larry is quoted as saying that his entire run is a giant retcon. Like, the past is always a shifting sand because of it's being shaped by the present. I'm now sort of adding to what he says, but he is very clear on the fact that, like, he's not trying to make the past ironclad, that, like, as new stories evolve in the present and the future, the past will change with it. So I'm leaving the door open to the fact that there could be retcons to that Vietnam story. But as far as I'm concerned, it's stayed consistent. Like, the LRRP stuff has stayed within the Larry Hama run. He has not reset it to Afghanistan or any kind of future conflicts, or future past conflicts, later conflicts. He has remained true in terms of that period of history. There's some weird, like, additional stories that have been shoehorned in there. Like, what comes to mind? No, I'm thinking of different things entirely. I'm thinking of the mission after GI Joe had been formulated when Snake Eyes gets his injuries. That stuff has kind of.
But has Wade always been there? Has Dickie always been there? Have they always been part of the team? Okay, so it's pretty consistent.
I think they name dropped them in issue 26. So as early as that, this element has been frozen in GI Joe history. Yeah.
So how frozen is your 5 for this, Stephen? Is it ice cold?
It just shows that Larry's got not only good stories, but great stories left in him. We're not dealing with the brainwave scanner or any of the kind of the old cat that gets trotted out month to month. This is a very meaningful story, and a story that needed to come out of context. It needed to kind of have this spotlight series to bring it out. I feel like it's been percolating for Larry for the longest time, and he's wanted to fill in the blanks, as it were. What Storm Shadow's entry into the team was, how Snake Eyes carried himself in those early days, and once again, coming back to my early point that, like, it's so nice to get a little bit more of a sense of who Dickie and Ramon were, apart from just being the guys, the sacrificial lambs to add weight to that moment. These were real people. They had aspirations. It's very much like issue 155 in its realism and its stoicism. Like, it's telling a story about three-dimensional characters. They're fully realized, even if they don't have that much to do within the run of the issue. Yeah, man. 5 out of 5, all the way.
Hell yeah, brother!
Action figures win. I kid. We'll probably never get toys of them. No, we will. We will. I mean, how many shooters are we going to get first? And then we'll maybe get a Wade Collins and Dickie.
I'm going to wager Wade is not likely to see a classified figure, my boy.
I don't know why not.
It's not going to happen.
Too far removed. I don't think Hasbro necessarily want anything to do with the Vietnam War. Something tells me.
No, I think you're 100% right. I'm being a shit.
Well, It's make your own customs. Make your own customs. Come on.
But guys, yeah, 4.5 Yojo colors for me, or 4.5 donut dollies for me on this one. I dig it. I think it's a great comic book. I really enjoyed reading it. Is it fair to say the reason I'm not giving it 5 is because I kind of want more? And then I'm disappointed by the next issue that comes
I need more. I need more.
Like, I want more of this, and then it's not that. Like, and I hate to be like so stereotypical GI Joe fan of this time, but I remember when this comic book came out, you know, the internet was like, "Oh my word, this is amazing! This is like return to form for GI Joe. It's the best story ever. I hope they keep this up next episode." Fuck this book, man. This book sucks. It's so shitty. They virtue signaling. All kinds of crap. So yeah, that's my only issue with it. It's like I want there to be more, and what comes afterwards is not more.
It's not
and
more.
then I realize I've had it all already, technically.
Yeah.
And we're rereading it again on the show. So
4.5
out of 5. So.
Next episode, we're back to cartoons, boys.
What? Cartoons?
What
moving
episode,
comics?
20 questions with Hector Ramirez.
Whoa!
Yep,
That's crazy.
We will be back in 2 short weeks, guys. I hope you enjoyed hanging out with us. Thank you to everyone in the chats. I see we have about 31 people.
Wow.
31 people on YouTube and 3 people on Facebook. That's incredible stuff.
I'm not yawning.
Facebook. Yes, you are. Thank you for joining us for an excellent episode about me in the past. I'm so cool and amazing. Yes, I am.
I purposely didn't bring Storm Shadow out for exactly that. I think I should have.
So that I could do the voice. You're right. My voice is better than yours.
Voice of Storm Shadow.
And I know we're kind of we're entering the hour and 3/4 territory, and I've already talked about some new shit. But like, I gotta clear this off my ledger because
it's more new stuff. I love it.
I don't want to speak about it anymore. I want to throw this into my cupboard and make it disappear. But I got another.
Oh God, you got another
McFarlane stories. Avatar.
Tell us more.
Oh goodness!
I got the amp suit because it was going for nothing. Though, okay. Backstory. Before the JB Hi-Fi McFarlane fire sale, I found this on Facebook Marketplace from a private seller. It had been opened already and it was going for cheap. Not quite as cheap as the sales price. So I'm kicking myself for not waiting. I'm also kicking myself for not inspecting the photographs a little bit more closely. Not that he had many photographs, but there's a little piece broken off in the back. There should be a canister. Yeah. Not an ammo drum, but like there's another, I don't know, maybe it's a hydraulic canister or something. Anyways, minor nitpick, I guess. But it reminds me that like I take this shit way too seriously. Like the seller took this out of its packaging, probably didn't even notice the break or the QC. Like I believe him when he tells me, "Oh, I didn't see that." He took some pictures and then sent it to me. And I guess, as I say, I take these details way too seriously, and I need to chill out.
I think you paid money for it, and I think you're allowed to be that full of shit about it.
He did offer to take it back. He was like, "Do you want to return it?" I honestly didn't see that, and I was like, "You know what? No. I mean, it'll cost us as much as I paid for the thing in terms of shipping anyways, so I'll live with it." But to dry my eyes, he included a bonus. I guess he's just trying to get rid of all of this Avatar stuff. Natiri. And this is just an example of what McFarlane action figures are up to now, because they're very good.
Yeah.
Very well concealed articulation.
That awesome Master Chief from McFarlane that is super plausible.
Yeah, she's great, man. Got a blue skin Zoe Saldana. Woohoo.
Nice.
GI Gary, just to remind you that you did get a Snake Eyes with the third nipple at one stage.
I seem to have found some dog sellers in recent history. Thanks for reminding me, Gary.
Is the APU a cool toy, Steve? Is it fun to
Is it
play
a good
with?
toy? Otherwise,
Does it feel like it's gonna break? Because I'm too scared of playing with the ones that I bought from Mattel.
The joints that need to have ratchets do, and they ratchet very securely. But yeah, McFarlane is nerve-wracking stuff. Like, you always feel like a joint is gonna shear off, and then you can be like, oh well, back in the box, never see you again. Because yeah, it needs a lot of articulation, and it always has this kind of chalky plastic quality, which you feel will tear. And yes, I have actually had a break. My crab suit canopy, like the little one, the sort of the in-universe canopy, not the kind of the big one that allows access practically. But yeah, it's got a sort of secondary canopy, which I'd never really opened, never needed to, because to get a figure in and out, you're going to use the big canopy, the toy canopy. But I wanted to display it with the hatch open, and opened it once. It flexed ever so slightly beyond the point that it should flex, and snapped the hinges. They're these thin little translucent hinges, and I'm like that is just made to explode, to self-destruct. Come on.
I'm sorry, man.
I guess they concentrate the hardiness on the joints that need to have it. Everything that is like an articulation point for a mech is this kind of really hard ratchet, nothing loose, and the plastic feels thick. The wall thicknesses and the tolerances are there. But then every now and then they're just details that McFarlane's kind of gone over the deep end in terms of like, let's make this movie accurate, and let's have these fine little greeblies, and like make everything very flush and, as I say, one-to-one with the actual model from the film. And it just lets down the side. You're like, no ways is a child meant to play with this.
No.
A big child.
Yeah, but that's the issue I had with the Mattel one, because I broke the leg about 30 minutes after taking it out of the box, and I didn't do anything crazy. I literally supported the joint, I moved it, and I went, and it was like.
And you say to yourself, this is natural selection. This is like, I can't feel bad. I can't feel bad about this break. I can't feel bad about this break because but Paul, did you feel remorseful at the time? I'm gonna guess not. No matter how much you paid for the thing, it was destined to break. You cannot.
I bought a second one.
You cannot play with it.
Wow! I bought one on Friday at Rage, and then I bought the second one when I got back there on Saturday morning.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah.
Okay, so you did feel like I need to make this right.
Yeah, I needed to fix this because I was like pissed off. I was like, I can't even stand it. Like I can't, like jokes aside, I can't stand it. Like it couldn't stand it. Broken.
I can't stand it.
I can't stand it.
Well, you asked me about the APU in a sort of a suspension of disbelief sense. Like you asked me about the toy specifics, sure, but I'm going to say that as a design, I don't like it. I never did. The weird legs, the weird feet. I know this is probably mechanically very correct because they needed to make these things look like they would, look like something from the real world, but also look like something that could conceivably work. This isn't cell animation. This isn't a giant mecha where you could have shapes and weight that didn't make practical sense. This thing needed to look good, occupying frame space with actual flesh and blood actors. So it looks practical enough to exist. But design-wise, yeah, man, we got some GI Joe logic here. Big glass canopy? Interesting. No protection. Like, they could have had a fully 3D environment projected for the driver. Like, that's the technology of the Avatar world. But instead, they went with this. So you could see your villain, Miles Quaritch, nice and prominent in the cockpit, doing battle with the Navi.
Huey robot.
Oh, no.
I don't want to kill you anymore. Let's just make sex.
Riveting. Oh.
Jeez, dude.
Wow.
Made you look.
Oh.
I've got a very, very, very nude blue figure. Natiri is, as I say, she's wearing rags, man. Loincloth. So I never really liked the APU at all. And and this experience doesn't really make me like it anymore. But we are on the verge of 2 hours. It's been wonderful hanging out with you all. Thank you, everyone who joined us live. Thank you for everyone checking us out on the rewatch or re-listen. Drop down to the comment section on the YouTube video and let us know your thoughts on these two issues. Or if you want to write us an email, we are arealsouthafricanhero@gmail.com. Bam, bam, bam.
And also, what's up, Vincent396 on your riding mower? Sounds like an awesome time.
Cool.
I want to let you know. Like
He's got a mech of his own.
This is crazy. So this episode I discovered people listen to us in the bathtub, and they listen to us on top of their electric lawnmower.
I don't know if
it's probably a petrol lawnmower, but yeah, the ride-ons.
You can enjoy GI Joburg wherever you are,
and you can also enjoy bonus extras on our Patreon, courtesy
like all these wonderful people.
Paul Lopesha, thank you to our patron tribe. I also drop a weekly vlog if you are part of the YouTube membership thing. So yeah, they're sort of overlapping and different perks to each platform. So if you want to give us dollars on one, you'll get some things. And if you want to give us some dollars on the other, you get some things. Or if you want to give us some likes, I'll accept that too.
All goes to running a show. Because StreamYard is not free, damn it.
Oh my goodness.
True.
But jokes aside, thank you very much to the guys that do support us. It is super awesome of you. We do have some merch. The patrons, you guys get a discount code. If you haven't got your discount code, just DM me. I can get it to you if you want to buy some merch. Yay, there it is.
Oh, wow.
Yes, it's not GI Joe merch. It's like GI Joe merch.
It's inspired by G.I. Joe.
Yes.
Similar, but not the same.
Yes. So, awesome.
Yeah, you get our cool 8-bit avatars marching across your t-shirt.
Any new merch, ask Troy. Troy, I am working on it. I'm having trouble actually uploading some new merch to that site. But
stop having trouble.
I'll figure that out. When there is stuff, I'll let you guys know.
Get it out of the way on the double. Come on.
For the patrons, I should have some tunes up soon, and some insights on some things. Last 2 weeks have been a bit of a rush. I can't believe how quickly everything went. So.
Absolutely crazy. I mean, if this episode's done too now. 296.
97.
97.
We're getting up there. 298 will once again, as I say, be a cartoon episode. We will cover 20 questions with Hector Ramirez and Renegades.
Something from Renegades? That's still going.
No, seriously, what is the episode?
I really don't know.
I have no idea.
I think we should end the episode and talk about that afterwards. Yeah, join us next time to discover what episode we'll be listening to.
No, come on, let's do everyone a favor.
I'm sure this is very entertaining for everyone.
They love our administrative processes, Rob.
It's so that people can watch. People ask us, guys. They want to know. Okay.
I think that's
if they had watched the last episode where we watch cartoons, it's pretty easy to figure out what the next one will be.
Okay, here it is. Really? Thank you, bastards. I've got to host the show, and I
can't check. I'm literally on my phone right now. I'm watching on my phone. If I have to push anything on you, I will leave the podcast.
Crocodile tears.
Well, if you've listened to this point, thank you. We are going to cover episode 10 of Renegades, entitled Firefight. Sounds exciting.
Wow.
Check you in 2 weeks where we will be live, public, and free on YouTube and Facebook.
And if it's the future, you enjoy the next episode whenever you like, because it's already recorded.
Bird.